When multiple loosely related technologies start to get better at the same time, there are often surprising second-order effects. And we've seen this exact thing happen several times in the past. Consider the Second Industrial Revolution that occurred in the late 19th century. Thomas Edison built the first electric power stations in 1881, but it wasn't until 40 years later that electricity really started being used to power machines. That's because factories weren't designed around electricity when it became available. Most plants just replaced their steam engines with electrical ones and called it a day. This failed to take advantage of the full benefit of electrification. Older factories were designed to have a single power source that was either completely on or completely off. This meant that when the factory was on, every machine was running. But electricity can be routed locally and turned on or off based on the specific needs of the moment. Eventually, new factories were built to take advantage of the true value of electricity, and productivity soared. Henry Ford built the first moving assembly line, which cut the production time for a single car from over 12 hours to just 93 minutes. This was only possible because electricity was available everywhere throughout the plant, and the factory could be designed for maximum efficiency. We tend to think of Thomas Edison as single-handedly bringing about the electrification of America. It was literally a light bulb moment. But that narrative completely ignores the advances in power management, manufacturing hardware, and production theory that collectively led to the real impact of electrification. That's why treating the metaverse as just VR is so wrong. VR might be a foundational metaverse technology, but as we've seen, it's clearly not enough. We've had decent VR headsets for years now, but no metaverse. If Thomas Edison is a little old school for you, don't worry. We can learn all the same lessons from Steve Jobs and the iPhone. Most people will point to the iPhone as the beginning of the mobile internet era, and just like the light bulb, they aren't wrong. But the full story is much more complex. Even though the first iPhone did have a web browser, it didn't have a 3G modem, and most websites had yet to be optimized for mobile, so the experience was pretty bad. It wasn't until the second iPhone that the mobile internet really started taking off, and even then, this was almost a full decade after the wireless application protocol created the standards that allowed phones to access the internet in the first place. Obviously, there were lots of internet-connected mobile devices before the iPhone, and the impact of mobile wasn't entirely clear until apps like Instagram and Uber created businesses that couldn't exist before. The idea of a supercomputer in your pocket has been alluring for decades. In 1976, the sci-fi author Arthur C. Clarke published Imperial Earth. In the book, he described a mobile video phone called the Minisec, which had global data connectivity and sounds an awful lot like the iPhone. And in the 90s, a team of engineers spun out of Apple to start a new company called General Magic. The goal of that company was to basically create an iPhone, but they had to build everything from scratch and went bankrupt before launching it. The iPhone was only possible because so many other technological visions had finally become realities. Steve Jobs deserves all the credit in the world for the iPhone, but it was only possible because other entrepreneurs had built foundational technologies first. Screen manufacturers made the iPhone durable, chip designers made the iPhone powerful, and app developers made the iPhone useful. The iPhone was the culmination of dozens of different independent technologies working together to produce a truly revolutionary product. Investors often talk about the iPhone moment as a key turning point in any new technology. It's the point where everything comes together and really starts working, and it often marks the dawn of a new era. In some ways, the light bulb moment and the iPhone moment couldn't be more different. The light bulb was merely an idea that sparked decades of innovation, but it didn't have immediate consumer value. The iPhone, on the other hand, was not just a single idea. It was the synthesis of dozens of technological trends. And that's how you should think about the metaverse. It certainly hasn't had an iPhone moment yet, but there may have been a light bulb moment, even though we can't quite put our finger on it yet. In a few years, we might point to the Oculus, Fortnite, or Ethereum as the true beginning of the metaverse. But that won't matter as much as what comes next. The iPhone moment for the metaverse will only come after we have made significant progress in several key areas of technology. Computers need to get faster in order to support more realistic rendering and physics calculations. It's no coincidence that the biggest games all have the most simplistic graphics. Fortnite, Roblox, and Minecraft are all designed to run on basically any device, so they have to be simple. Internet connections also need to get a lot stronger for the metaverse to really work. Netflix is able to stream you HD video content because they can compress the footage you're watching in advance and store the file on a server in your region. We've all seen how difficult it is to maintain a stable connection even on a basic video call, and I wouldn't call Zoom an immersive experience. Most video calls are 720p, highly compressed, and 24 frames per second at best. In order for VR to feel immersive, you usually need 2 separate streams of near 4K video running at 120 frames per second. If internet connections get faster, the content you're viewing in VR could be rendered on a server and then streamed to you, like how Google Stadia runs games in the cloud and just sends you the resulting video feed. So hardware will need to get better and smaller, but that actually might be the easy part. See, computers basically get better every year, but the networks built on top of those computers only get more complicated, intertwined, and entrenched. The real promise of the metaverse is one of universality. It's right there in the name. The verse in metaverse only works if we develop a full-fledged world that is open to anyone and encompasses everything.